Before white people came to their lands, the Anangu led a nomadic life. They cared for their country. The land was their spirit, their being and their life. The Anangu valued and cared for their water. They understood it was a precious resource and used it sparingly and reverently. In times of drought, families and travelling groups gathered at one special water source where the water never failed, Yuldi, now known as Uday Soak. For the Anangu and for all our Aboriginal people, the land is the basis of their culture. It is their supermarket, their pharmacy, their school and their church. Moira Watson speaks of life in the bush before the testing took place. I used to travel around, go and get bush foods, collect them in our billy can, eat them, share with others. We were really good then, really healthy. In 1901, a government surveyor, J.G. Stewart, came to Uday looking for a path for the railway to the west. Work commenced in 1912, and with this work came construction workers, who introduced the Anangu to tobacco, tea, sugar, white flour and alcohol. Once the train started, a bore was sunk at Uday to use in the steam trains. Over 45,000 litres of the precious liquid was pumped from the soak every day. In 1918, Daisy Bates set up camp at Uday. She cared for the sick and elderly and encouraged the Anangu to maintain their self-sufficient nomadic lifestyle. She was much loved and respected by the people and stayed for 16 years until the United Aboriginal Mission came in 1936. In 1938, the government declared 5,180 square kilometres of land an Aboriginal reserve. This included Uday Soak. The land was considered worthless and no good for settlement or pastoralisation, so it was hardly a magnanimous gesture. However, the desert lands weren't worthless or empty. The Anangu land had an ecosystem. It had people with cultural connections to the land and an obligation to care for it. On June 24, 1952, without warning, the mission at Uday was closed. Prime Minister Robert Menzies requested that Uday's status as an Aboriginal reserve be revoked. Unbeknown to the Anangu people, the Australian government had already agreed to allow the British government, to conduct atomic testing in traditional Anangu lands. Yvonne Edwards remembers the feelings of betrayal and turmoil caused by their sudden and unexplained eviction from their home, all because two groups of whitefellas in faraway cities could not solve their differences. On the 19th of February 1952, British and Australian governments issued a joint statement telling people what was planned. In the course of this year, the United Kingdom government intends to test an atomic weapon produced in the United Kingdom. In close cooperation with the Government of the Commonwealth of Australia, the test will take place at a site in Australia. It will be conducted in conditions which will ensure that there will be no danger to the health of the people or animals of the Commonwealth. As you can see, this statement said nothing at all. And Aboriginal people were not recognised under the Commonwealth institution, so weren't considered in this statement or at all in the plans to turn their home into a nuclear wasteland. Most people displaced from Uday ended up at the Lutheran mission at Yalata. They were disorientated and grieving for their home. The missionaries withheld rations if they travelled home for ceremony, which didn't stop them trying. Many groups walked all the way back to Uday, only to be rounded up and trucked back to Yalata. They felt no connection with this southern land and didn't belong. While the Anangu were trying to rebuild their lives in an alien country, a new town was being built on their lands. In 1953, the site was named Maralinga, a word from an Aboriginal language in northern Australia meaning thunder. The word for thunder in Anangu is tuni. In 1955, most of the Great Victoria Desert was declared a prohibited area. There were still Anangu in the desert who had avoided contact with white people and had no way of understanding the signs put up to warn them of danger. I don't feel any of us can truly understand the depth of despair felt by the Anangu when they were forcibly removed. The new land didn't feel like home, didn't look like home, didn't yield the same food or medicine, and most importantly, it held no spiritual connection. They lost their ceremony spaces, totems and artefacts, and had no way of returning home for important ceremonies and celebrations.